Welcome, everyone, to the Writing Glitch. I'm Cheri Dotterer, your classroom coach. Today, we have Tiffany James and Mike Jones. Tiffany and Mike are the directors of Nessy, and Mike is the founder. I'd love to welcome you here today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Before we really begin, I'd like to welcome our sponsor, and that is Disability Labs. Disability Labs is committed to impact the journey of 20,000 teachers by 2030. So that they can reignite their passion for learning. The professional development series focuses on math and writing strategies to help students in the classroom. These interventions improve students with and without disabilities. All students have the access to mathematics and writing skills. And they have an ebook called The Pizza Problem for $14.95. You can find that information in the show notes. The Pizza Problem introduces the concept of squares to students. And whether you're a teacher or an occupational therapist, this problem helps you understand conceptual knowledge and helps improve number sense of the students. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how Nessy got started.
We both have dyslexia, and I don't know how far you want me to go back, but we did make a film actually about when I was a child and the struggles I had at school and how I was helped by my mum, but who taught herself really to teach me. She used a Fortin Gillingham based program called Alpha to Amiga, and she flew over to New York to study with Diane King. She made up a lot of her own strategies to help me. Once I was taught in a way that I could learn, everything changed. Before, I couldn't even spell my name. I couldn't read anything. I was about 8 and I was on the track to leave school illiterate. But once I was taught in a structured, systematic and explicit way, then the door opened up, and it didn't stop all the other troubles that come with dyslexia and executive function, forgetting where you've put things, or memory, slower processing. But I could at least access the content, read and spell to a functional level, and I got through school. She went on to start a center to help neurodiverse children. I went on to law school, but then when I came back and over the summer to help her, I realized that I wanted to train to be a teacher to help other children with dyslexia. And after working there for a few years, I began to realize that the strategies and techniques that they were using would work for all children, not just children with dyslexia. But we were only helping about 300 children in our local area. And I thought, why don't we put this online? And then we can help all those children who can't get access to a specialist teacher, someone that's trained that understands structured literacy, that's experienced and qualified. There just aren't enough teachers. And it's also unaffordable for some people. Using the internet, we made a program that would help people without access to specialists.
That was back in 1999,
25 years ago.
25 years ago. And back then it was on the internet for a brief time, and then you put it on disk, and you went back to the internet again.
We were too far ahead of our time. The internet, schools didn't have broadband. There were no touch screens. So we had to just give teachers what they wanted and give it on a CD format, but it's all online again now. We were also one of the first companies in the world to start apps for touchscreen, first dyslexia focused app, because it's such an intuitive way to learn. I think we've often been at the forefront of education, technical education, if you like, technology and education. And even now, we're constantly watching what research is coming out, and we're able to incorporate that to ensure that we keep up to date with all the science that's coming out.
Or change and adapt very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Can do that very fast. The way that Pat taught Mike is akin to what we would call structured literacy now. That's not what she called it, and that's not what she thought she was learning to do when she was learning to teach her dyslexic son. But it's akin to what we would call structured literacy, and that's what Nessy is. structured literacy. It has always been from the very beginning. We have been we've never been whole language or balanced literacy back for 25 years. We've held on to that structured literacy belief system and way of teaching from the very beginning. We continue to do that.
Mm.
And how
And
does it I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Mike.
I was just going to say that Pat brought to her teaching center was a very game driven approach. You've got the structure there, but she had lots of card games. You know how children with dyslexia or following structured literacy need lots of repetition all the time, lots of short activities that build upon one another, uh, building up the mechanics of reading, of literacy, of reading and spelling, from phoneme development to letter sound recognition, phonics recognition, then blending, segmenting, going on to whole word recognition, fluency building, vocabulary, comprehension, and following that whole system. But she introduced lots of games, lots of card games, and lots of unique strategies as well. So, for instance, a syllable is an intangible concept that a child can't imagine or hold in their head. But she came up with the idea, which has been copied by lots of other companies, as of a silly bull. And silly bull would beat the ground with its hoof, and it would make the beat of a word. And linking those together, as they can imagine a silly bull. Another thing she did was prefix, root, and suffix became the head, the body, and the tail of a word. And your child can imagine that. And then in Nessy, we've taken concepts like that and we've put them to some music and song and made lots of humor. We teach, and then we have the structured games that follow one another. But it's not all screen learning. It also involves lots of paper-based resource, so they can play card games, it can manipulatives, so they can interact with their peers, a teacher, a parent, because learning is a very holistic thing, and it needs to involve lots of different activities.
Fantastic. I love it. And Tiffany, how do you fit into all this history of Pat and Mike and learning how to read?
I was working in Texas with consulting for some nonprofits, working with new arrivals to the country, children that were not speaking any English at all. I had lots of them to try to serve. I was also working as a reading specialist and advising schools as well. But in this particular project, I had lots and lots of kids I needed to take care of, and I couldn't find anything that I could administer to that many children without specialist teachers on that grand a scale. And some of those children were dyslexic, but most of the children were just non-English speakers. They were speaking English as a second language, and they weren't speaking English in the home, and they weren't speaking English at school. I found Nessy and started using that years ago. It was a lifesaver. It enabled us to take care of that many kids, and we had children that were beginning to write sentences in English in by Christmas time. Well, we started in August, and by Christmas they were bringing me little flyers from the inside of their backpack and reading that to me and telling me all about how they could sign up for soccer. It was brilliant. We knew then, and even a little bit before then, I think Mike knew a little bit before then, that Nessy, even though it was designed for children with dyslexia, it was a brilliant solution for all children because that is the way children learn to read best. And one thing that makes it so effective, it's because it's driven um, by an online platform. It has the ability to assess the children and really tailor the learning plan specifically for the children. Another project I was doing around the same time, I was working on a 2.5 year research study with a school there. And what we found is the fact that Nessy, by the time these kids were in second grade, they started in kindergarten, could divide children into three main groups and really let the kids that were ready to jump ahead and excel, they had the material right there for them. The kids that were working at second grade level were well looked after. And the kids that were lagging, was still struggling to master those early concepts, were given the extra help they needed. And the rate of all the children soared compared to the control group, which were using a really well known paper based phonics curriculum that most educators would know about because it's well known and well respected in the American culture for sure. It's well known. The results were just night and day. The kids that were getting that individualized learning that was being driven by the platform were they soared ahead of the kids, and a large number of those kids in that cohort wound up being in, I think, the top 10% of the nation statistically compared to the others. And I want to say that the children being taught in the other program, the paper-based phonics program, were being taught by really skilled educators that were trained in this program and had taught it for years. They weren't new teachers. These were women that were really skilled. But still, the other program really being very structured and individualized and prescriptive in the way it was teaching made a huge difference.
I think when you've got a whole class approach, children have such a
Hmm.
variety of abilities, and they'll all get there in the end if they follow a structured, systematic program. But they need to be able to move at their own pace, and some need longer to get a concept, and that's where the individualized approach really does pay dividends. But nothing's going to replace a specialist teacher and what they can bring to teaching. But I think what Nessy does is a good second best. It can help supplement a specialist teacher that's trying to deal with a lot of children, and it can reach those children who don't have access to a specialist.
In this study and studies that we've done year after year since then, what it did is it allowed the educator, the teacher in the room to spend some small time, some one-on-one time or some small group time with each of the groups in her classroom because she was rotating them through. Some were working with Nessy online, some were working together in teams with playing games or being read to by a teacher's aide or a parent volunteer, and then another group was working directly with the teacher, and she had the reports there. So it allowed her to break them into logical instructional groups. She was working with some on some really intensive phonics. And then with some groups, she was really working on the kids that were in the gifted and talented program were ready for really robust vocabulary and really talking through some great writing skills and all kinds of wonderful things. But it allowed her to do that because they were spending about 20 minutes or 30 minutes with her, and then 20 or 30 minutes with the on the computer, and 20 or 30 minutes with the parent volunteer or the teacher's aide, and working with learning games and all kinds of fun stuff in another group. It worked out beautifully, and the kids just soared. Their test scores were top notch. They were really good.
It sounds like there is some kind of AI built into the program to help filter those different levels. It sounds
Nope.
like you have a lot of technology there.
It
Kudos.
self-assesses. Yeah, so it does. It every 5 lessons, it gives them a reading assessment, and then another 5 lessons, it gives them a spelling assessment, and based upon those assessments, it's continuously assessing. Based upon those, it's fine-tuning the lessons that are delivered to a particular student.
We would like to potentially include machine learning algorithms to help see if it could be more effective. But really, it's down to research and following. There's so much research out there. If you follow it and you have that structured approach, and the fun helps make children maintain
Yeah, it helps
motivation
keep them engaged.
and engage them, then it works. You don't need AI. It, it just works.
That's true. All of the learning programs, all of the games, everything embedded within the program is going to be based upon things that anyone that is familiar with the research, what we call the science of reading, would be quite familiar with those techniques. So,
Yeah. I think what Nessy brings to it is a lot of fun characters, rewards, the unique strategies that we've got, there's characters and music and the games. We've made a virtual world that children love to explore, and it keeps them motivated. And really, a lot of the time, these are children who may have been switched off from education because they feel like they can't do it. And one of our goals is really to try and spread that awareness, like you're doing with this podcast, about what is the science of reading, how can it help children, and why should we be using it in schools. Tiffany and I have both written books about that. Tiffany's is a bit better than mine. Do you want to explain it?
Mike has actually 2 books, so I don't have copies of them here because we've just come from a conference. I only have one of his books, and unfortunately, I could only find the Japanese version to show. But because this book, Dyslexia Explained, has been translated into
Several languages.
yes, quite a few languages. I can't remember how many, but that's the copy that I happen to have on our library shelf.
But all our books have a unique approach in that they're not written for academics or even professionals. They're a quick way to understand using a lot of pictures, very few words.
They're great for to explain to classroom teachers that may not have had the benefit of knowing a lot about how to teach reading. It wasn't part of their teacher training course, or they don't know much about dyslexia.
But you can get the books free on our website.
Yeah, you get it
Actually,
free.
the ebooks, nessy.com.
Or you can get them on Amazon. But anyway, this one is Dyslexia Explained. It really talks about the kind of the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of dyslexia in a very easy way. And then my book that Mike was referring to is called What I Need. It's for children struggling in the classroom with literacy, how to advocate for what they need to be successful, how to really go and talk to their teachers about what they need to help them. And then Mike's latest book it's great. It's becoming very popular. I noticed it today on Melissa and Lori's website and Facebook page about,
called Improve Your Spelling.
yeah, an essential of
It really
science of
is
reading.
covering the rules and strategies.
Yeah.
Often I have parents or teachers say, I've never heard of these rules before. And can you explain them? And I know there are lots of books out there that explain
This does it in a very
rules.
easy to digest and colorful way. We're getting a lot of feedback that a lot of teachers are using it up on the whiteboard and using it to help explain the rule to the entire class. They're using the art that way.
And then we turned that information into an online training course as well. So it explains all about the science of reading, the approach that works, the different difficulties associated with dyslexia. Um,
And that training course is a product that we sell. But every October, it's been my tradition for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I give it away to any teacher in the world that asks for it for free. If you go to Nessy.com in October, you'll be able to follow the links through to find it. And we have teachers, and it gives you some certificates in the end. It give you a certificate about dyslexia. It's almost like a dyslexia 101 not for specialists, dyslexia specialists, but for those that are new to the understanding of dyslexia for classroom teachers or parents. And then there's another certificate that is about the science of reading. And it's just a basic understanding of what does that mean, the science of reading. And the new modules are being added in now, the ones that with the spelling rules. That'll be a new addition for this year, this October. If you
Wow,
go
that
to the website, you can get it.
that is powerful. I didn't realize that you did professional development, professional learning for the teachers as well. So that is fantastic because many of the people that are listening to this podcast are the teachers. Some are parents, some are occupational therapists as well. My background, just so you get to know me just a little bit more, I bet you a lot of people that have been listening to the podcast have heard the story. But if this is their first time listening, this will be some of the background for me. And spelling is really where I got a little bit hung up. This is the story is I was sitting doing an evaluation report. My background is occupational therapy. And the big struggle with my student was spelling. My daughter comes in the room, who is a gifted student, and is crying, saying, I can't spell, I can't spell. And she was in 5th grade around about that time. And the kid that I had evaluated was 4th, 5th grade, somewhere in that vicinity. And I'm going, wait a minute, how can a kid with gifted and a kid with learning disability both be struggling with spelling? I'm not seeing the connection. I went on this exploration on how can I help all students better their understanding of spelling from a neuroscience perspective. I came in from this side door, not necessarily from the reading perspective, because I really wasn't dealing with that at home, but I was looking at it from is that barrier that is preventing it neurologically. And I wrote a book also. It's Handwriting Brain Body Disconnect. This is my awful copy that I share because it's handy. It's that one that Amazon gives you that you can't sell to your proof before it's ready to go. So it's out there, and I'm also working on a book for math with a math teacher, and we've been working on some of the scientific foundations of learning that reflect both writing and mathematics. I say that not only just to give you some background to myself, but to go, okay, so we have an occupational therapist who is out there who has kids that are struggling with spelling. We have, they may not know a whole lot about the science of reading. How can an adjunct discipline tap into Nessy to help them with their students that are really struggling with spelling? It and it's just creating that barrier to learning. Do you get a lot of OTs coming your way?
I don't know if we get a whole lot of OTs coming our way,
I think
but
we do.
you think we do?
Mm.
But spelling is the foundation of our flagship program. Is the building blocks of spelling in your book that you've just written. So
Mhm.
spelling is a big part of what we do. And I was telling you about all those children in the classroom when they start to divide up into kind of instructional groups because of their natural abilities and also their background knowledge and the teaching that they have. Those kids that fall into that GT group, which I have worked with before with Nessy, they always finish the reading portion of Nessy, but they go on for years to finish the spelling portion of Nessy because the spelling is something that all children need work with. That you would consider that you would think that there would be children that spelling is just easy for, but that is really a really small population of kids. They all need the building block because our language is complex, has a deep orthography. There's a lot to learn. And
Yeah, I love predictive speech. Sometimes I hate it, but predictive speech has changed my life. The only
yes,
reason I was able to get a book written is because of computer technology today. I would have never been able to complete a book when I was in college the first time, needing to go electric typewriter to paper because of my spelling issues
yeah. Are
myself.
you dysgraphic as well, or just have difficulty with spelling?
I just have difficulty with
No.
spelling and sentence structure, the higher levels of the dyslexia parts. My daughter struggles with spelling still, but she does a lot with technology. I mean, granted, she's writing Python code, so she's doing pretty good with her
Yes.
symbols. And she's a calculus major, doing well in the math part. She used to be a creative writer, but
Mhm.
yet the technology was what was able to bring her past that.
Yeah.
She had a head injury and the creative writing has disappeared.
Well,
I say that with a go, and people are going, but you talk about her all the time because she still struggles, even though she doesn't fit that dyslexia and that difficulty early on. When it came to the higher capacities, yeah, she did have some struggles and we had to work through them, but she was able to work through them faster than a child who has the ultimate struggles of the trifecta of the dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. And then we compound that with a little bit of ADHD.
just for some added spice.
Yeah,
Understand completely.
just for some added spice.
Yes.
And that's where I came at it first is how do I help a kid with ADHD and that struggles with spelling? I was coming at it from that perspective and realized there was this foundational connection. And that's why the science of reading, I like to promote it a lot on this podcast, because if kids aren't getting that foundation of reading, when they translate to writing, it's not going to happen.
No, you're right. I completely agree. They're so intertwined. You cannot separate the two.
No.
And interesting, kids with ADHD too. I mean, all that the foundational teaching with all of these types of very structured prescriptive programs is all the same, but it's in the delivery. And they're those with the little spice. They like me. They're challenging because you have to keep them engaged because that really dry delivery can be sometimes they can find that really tedious and really a lot of drudgery to get through. You have to come up with novel ways to keep them going and keep them engaged to get them to that mastery level so that they can sail on their own. But
Yeah. The little bit I've seen of your program from a child's perspective, and I believe I brought it in like kindergarten, first grade is where I
yeah,
was when on the child that I've created for my practice. Very cute. I love the characters that you have there. I love that we're on this island and we're exploring the different parts of the island. People that are out there, this is a fantastic little program, and I love that you are going to be sharing things in October for free. I will make sure that this podcast gets released before October so that people can refer to that. But if you listen to this after October, next October is your next opportunity. I would imagine.
Yes, and then I don't know, I'll hold that up, but that people can get a trial for free. I'm not sure if they can see that, if they can scan that with their phone. If they can't, they can. I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up, but if you can't, they can go to the website, and there is a little button up there that says free trial, and you can go up there and sign up. It is either a parent, a tutor, or a teacher. You can sign up a whole class as a teacher. And you can get
And
60 days of it for free as a teacher. So you put
and
all
you and you said that was Nessy.com. How do you spell Nessy?
NESY.
Nessy.com.
.com. And with that free trial, you can have you get the Number Sense program, which is a program that we've recently collaborated with Chris Wooden, who taught at the Landmark School. He's a specialist in teaching number sense and children with dyscalculia, but it's great for all young children learning mathematics. And Nessy Reading and Spelling, which is for 6 to about 11 years old. It goes all the way up to really complex language development. And then Harry Reading is the early program for preschoolers and kindergartners. And it's letters and letter sounds, early blending, phonemic awareness, the very early skills, the pre-reading skills is that one. And you can get a free trial to all of those if you follow that free trial link on Nessy.com or
I'm sorry I interrupted. You have a lot of fantastic free things for the public. Thank
passion
you
of ours.
for
Yeah.
doing that. Mike, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we end the podcast?
I just, if you haven't, my story and my mum's story really was me made into a film, and it's on YouTube for free. So it had about 2 million views. It's only 20 minutes long, but it's spelled Mical, Michael, because that's how I used to misspell my name. That's why I'm Mike and not Michael. So much easier to spell. And
Yeah,
it's very moving.
Moving to
It's a
watch.
story that resonates with many people because they've experienced the same problems.
Yeah, it's really a story of a mother who sees that their child is struggling, and no matter what, she is going to figure out how to help him. She is going to do anything she possibly can to do it. And she did. And he went from the very bottom of the class and being asked to leave 4 schools to the top of the class, and then going on to law school and finishing law school at the top of his class, and then going on to be a teacher. It's called Michael, and it is about Mike, but that story is really about his mother's determination and not giving up.
I know. Advocates. The dogs are
And that
barking.
was MICAL.
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 MICAL. And it is, yes, it's available through our website. It's on Amazon, but you can get it for free on YouTube. If you just go into YouTube and search for it, you should be able to watch it for free there.
Wonderful. And Tiffany, is there anything that you'd like to say in closing?
No, I just this. Thank you for what you do. That is a passion of ours, to try to reach and help as many children as we possibly can, because we want to keep kids from having to suffer what we suffered as early learners in school. It's people like you spreading the word about good practice and the science of reading that helps get that done. And that's why we put so many free resources on our website as well. We want to give away as much as we possibly can.
Sorry
Well,
about the dog barking. They wants to get involved as well.
it's quite all right. This is part of the land of podcast. Oh,
Yeah.
it's fine. Thank you so much for your wisdom. This has been a breeze to just have a conversation with you. You're so easy to talk with. Amazing that you have so much free out there. Stop, look at the show notes, and you will be able to I will include links for all of those things they've talked about today. And listeners, go be awesome, go be brilliant. And you were put here for such a time as this. This has been Cheri Dotterer from The Writing Glitch. Thanks for being here.